Welcome everyone to our November webinar. Today we've got Sara from the United States with us, and she's going to be talking about programming for millennials and what she's learned. So I'll just hand it over to Sara to introduce herself and get started on her presentation.
Thank you, Julia. Hi everyone, thank you for having me today. My name is Sara. As Julia said, I am the General Services Librarian at Upper Darby Township and Sellers Memorial Free Public Library. Let me just share my screen with you. I am located in Upper Darby, Pennsylvania, USA. So I'm going to go ahead and share what I've learned for programming for millennials at my library. Some of the topics that will be covered today is how it got started, my stats over the last 5 years, programming that I've done, which programs worked, which haven't, using social media, what I've learned, and what I aim to bring during the next year. So what motivated me? To be honest, I missed attending programs from my teen years. I had recently graduated college and found myself reminiscing with friends about the book groups, movie marathons, and the random special events we used to attend as teens. And how disappointing it was that there seemed to be nothing for us. My library is well known for programming. We are constantly doing it. We offer programming for babies, which are 0 to 4 years old, children from kindergarten to 5th grade, teens from 6th to 12th grade, and adults that are 18 and up. However, the book group for adults consisted of mostly older adults such as retirees. And the rest of the programs just, didn't really tickle our fancy. Our adult programmer also had a lot on her plate, and she just couldn't find the time to devote to creating programming for millennials, so everything she did was pretty much for anyone as long as they were over 18. So here's a little bit of background about myself. This is to help you understand where I was compared to where I am now. At the time, I was a recent college graduate. I had been working in my library since my junior year of high school. I was 16 at the time. I was part of the desk staff, which involved me checking books in and out and occasionally helping someone on the computer. But that was the maximum of what I did at the time. So after talking with my friends, I decided to approach my director about possibly starting a book group at the library for people my age. She told me since if I was serious about it, to do some research and to get back to her. The problem was the only experience I had with programming was attending them. I've never hosted one. I've never been involved in hosting one. So I pretty much knew nothing about it. So after searching the internet, particularly Google, I had found a Pew article titled "Millennials, a Rising Generation of Book Lovers." So this article I felt was where I got started, and it also leads to where I am now. 3 things really jumped out at me from this article. It said 18 to 29-year-olds are actually reading a whole lot more than tweets and more than other adults. Some 8 in 10 Americans under the age of 30 have read a book in the past year compared to about 7 in 10 adults in general. The second point was 83% of Americans between the ages of 16 and 29 read a book in the past year. 60% of Americans, which is the third point, under 30 used the library in the past year. I have to admit, I was a bit confused at the time. I wasn't sure which 18 to 29-year-olds they were talking about. I wasn't seeing them. I worked on a desk over 20 hours a week, and I just wasn't seeing these numbers come into our library. And I really just wanted to know what library they were going to, because obviously I was missing out on some great programming. Another thing I want to mention is that while I was looking up this article for this webinar, I found a more updated article that said that millennials are now defined as 18 to 35 instead of 18 to 29. So I did recently change my age limit for my programming. Moving forward. So the one part I zeroed in on was the 18 to 29-year-olds. So I decided to use it as my age limit. Our teen book group covered until seniors in high school, which usually are about 17 to 18-year-olds. And at the time, I figured anyone over 30 was, you know, old enough to join the older book group. But now that I am close to 30 myself, I realized that I may have been a little mistaken. So I came up with my book group name. I thought about how one of the favorite things about the teen book group was being able to keep its book. So I wrote a proposal for the Friends of the Library, asking them to fund the purchase of books for all attendees. I decided which day of the week was best for the program. As it happened, the first Thursday of the month worked best for me. I know most people have plans for Friday. Monday, the week's just started. The workload is usually the heaviest. Tuesday and Wednesday were usually reserved for children, teen, and adult programming at my library. So I couldn't use the programming room. This pretty much left me with Thursday. I went with 7 in the evening to give people enough time to get home from school, work, or any of the other errands or obligations that they might have. In essence, Thursday became my night. So I suggest that you find a night that works best for you and for your millennials, and to stick with that time whenever you create a program for them. I also made sure to include snacks as part of the program because who doesn't love food? I took everything I had and once again approached my director. I was given the approval to go ahead with the book group, but to also keep in mind that if it was a success, that I should also start thinking about other programs that I might want to do for this age group. I got the funding for the books, and my very first book group flyer boasted a time that was better than therapy. It targeted 18 to 29-year-olds. Each attendee would get a copy of the book to keep, and there would be light refreshments served. I reached out to previous members who were no longer of the Age 14 programs and posted my flyer throughout the library, our local supermarket, Starbucks, other libraries, and for my very first book group, I had 17 attendees. So here's my flyer for my very first book group. I have to cut it in half in order to show you what the full thing looked like. I made sure to include as much information as possible about the program, as well as a Facebook page that I had created, as you can see there on the bottom. However, the Facebook page is no longer active, and I use a Facebook group now in order to contact my attendees, but I will get into that a little bit later. You'll see that I included that it's the first Thursday of every month. It's from 7 to 8:30, how to sign up, and where to get more information. So I succeeded in my first program. Now I had to bring other types of programming that targeted these millennials. So here are a few of the ones that I've done. The one thing that all of these programs have in common is that they are 90% of the time done on a Thursday evening. I like to stick to the same day of the week, as well as the closest time as possible, 7 p.m. So if it's a movie night, I might start a little bit earlier depending on how long the movie runs, but most of my programs, it's 7 p.m. Thursday evening. So my first movie night, you don't just need to show action movies or adult-rated movies. One of the highest attended movie programs that I had was a cartoon. Tangled had just recently been released on DVD. People were getting ready to go back to school. So it was just a nice way for them to relax. I had, I believe, it was 18 people who attended this program. It may have been due, in fact, to saying to them if they showed up, they would be put in for a raffle. I had a little popcorn basket that had microwavable popcorn, little snacks, some drinks, and one person would win it. If they brought a friend with them that was not signed up for the program, I gave them an extra ticket. So this kind of helped with word of mouth. They told their friends to come, as well as encouraged them to come. Another program I had, this is one of my favorite ones, was a Downton Abbey tea party. So as you can see, this program was actually done on a Saturday. This was simply due to the fact that we were going to watch multiple episodes, so we couldn't do that on a Thursday evening. I went all out for this program, included actually sending cards in the mail as an invitation rather than just making reminder calls. People loved getting them in the mail. They were very excited when they got them, and when they came to the program, they were like, oh, you sent us a card in the mail. You know, it felt like I was really going to a tea party. Other people came dressed up. They wore fancy dresses and suits. So it was just a wonderful time. So here's the sign-up sheet. I share this for the simple reason that it's not your usual sign-up sheet. As you can see, there's a place for their name and then also a section for food. For this program, I wanted them to be invested. So I asked them to sign up to bring something with them. It could be a bag of bread, cucumbers, cream cheese, tuna, tea bags, just anything that, you know, they walk in the door and they have something in their hand. If somebody didn't sign up for something, I just brought it myself. And while they were watching the episodes of Downton Abbey, I went ahead and started making the finger sandwiches using the stuff that they brought, and also had the tea boiling in a portable teapot. Multicultural food night. This program has always been a success for me, no matter when I do it. I will get into this one a little bit more later, but I just wanted to share that this was one of my original programming. Movie night. So for movie nights, I usually stick with the movies that have recently released on DVD, since people normally haven't seen them yet, especially if they haven't gone to the cinema to see them. They're more likely to show up because nobody wants to buy the DVD and it hasn't yet been released on one of the watching websites. This was when The Dark Knight was released. Again, I had a very good attendance for this one. People were very excited to see it. So it was great. Statistics. So when I first started in 2012, I was very excited. I started in June, and by December, I had 13 programs under my belt with 163 attendees. I did book groups, movie nights, multicultural food night, cupcake decorating, and henna tattoo. My henna tattoo program was actually the least attended of all of them, and I believe it's because I did do it a week before Christmas. People were too busy to come out shopping or traveling for family, and I just wasn't the best time to have done it, but since it was my first time doing it, it wasn't really in my head. 2013, I had 7 programs. The reason for that was because I had gone to Egypt for 5 months. Thankfully, I still had my job when I came back, but you can see how much my programming suffered as I tried to get back into the thread of things. The most exciting program I offered that year was a John Green live stream. I had applied to get a box from Penguin Publishers, and it had stickers and a poster and a couple of other things that I could give out to people who showed up. When I created the flyer for this, I had also sent it out to other libraries outside of my community in hopes of bringing people from outside my community, and it actually worked. They came, we watched the live stream, and it was for the release of The Fault in Our Stars. It was fantastic. 2014. So it seems my touch on programming was faltering a little bit. I tried many different programs to try and grab people's attention, things they would not associate with the library, because unfortunately libraries can still be perceived as a place where librarians are stern and all they do is shush you and read. People who go there are for books or to study. So I want to change that. During November, I had a writing workshop set up for nano RIMO, which is the National Novel Writing Month. Unfortunately, I only had 2 people show up for the first meeting, so I canceled it after that. I also had a gingerbread house decorating. I figured my pumpkin carving was a success. I tried this. Again, it was in December. Only 6 people had attended. I haven't tried the program since. 2015, I was wrapping up my master's in library science. I was a 2015 ALA emerging leader and just overall getting more involved in the library world. So I barely did much. I did my monthly book group and I did a movie night, which is why my results were so low. 2016, I had 23 programs with 128 attendees. I did have to cancel 2 programs due to low signups or because I was sick. I had a monthly book group, so that counts for 12 of them. I also had a monthly movie night, but I stopped doing them in June, I believe it was, because they were just failing miserably. Only 2 or 3 people were showing up for them. And I believe that they became less popular due to the extreme rise of Netflix and Hulu. So we're in a time now where it's possible to watch whatever you want online, and the only consequence you have is paying $7 a month. So people would much rather do that at home than come to the library. Another program I had was a financial literacy program, which was part of Money Smart Month. And I did have a good number in attendance, but I felt people were disappointed. Yes, the speaker shared a lot of information, but it was mostly information they knew or they couldn't use. It was on credit cards and debt management, credit cards and debit cards, and then life insurance. People were old enough to know the difference between debit and credit cards, so they didn't really enjoy the speaker. And they also felt that they were too young to learn about life insurance. So once again, it's not something that they really learned from. So I felt people had more questions and they weren't getting them answered. So I did learn a lot from that program in terms of what to do next time I had a financial literacy program. And I did bring a financial literacy program again in 2017. So as you can see, I did stay away from movie programs this year since my turnout wasn't really worth it last year. Instead, this year, I tried to do something a little bit different, and I focused on bringing speakers in from outside. Some I paid, but for others, I mostly tried to stick with nonprofit organizations or educational organizations who were willing to come out and do it for free. For example, my money program and my gardening series. So I've learned a lot from my previous money program, and with this one, I decided to do debt management and budgeting. I had a great turnout, and the program was supposed to run from 7 to 8 p.m. Instead, it went from 7 to 9 p.m., and I was almost quite literally pushing people out the door because the library was shutting down and I needed them to leave. But they were so engaged in the discussion with the presenter and with each other that they just lost track of time. The speaker was amazing. She focused on the best ways to budget and manage money. And normally people might not like to speak about money, but she made it so that they were more into sharing their experiences with banks, credit card companies, their own ways of saving and spending. And it was just such an interactive discussion that everyone who walked away that night walked away with something. From it, I have the same presenter coming out in January to do a program on taxes, and another one coming for April that I still need to plan. For the gardening series, I had a 3-part one. The first 2 were done by one presenter. The third one was done by a second presenter. People who came for the first program ended up signing for the other 2 before they left. They really enjoyed learning about how to keep their plants alive, how to garden for the summer, and they love taking plants home with them, which is something that these presenters had offered. It was free plants, tomato plants, cactus, succulents, so they love going home with something. I also used one of the gardening programs as a Facebook Live program, and people watched it from home. Some people commented, and of course, I counted them as part of my attendance. I will get more into Facebook Live later. Another program I want to mention was Holidays the Healthy Way. This is another one that I did not pay for, but I ended up canceling it because I only had a couple of people sign up, and it really wasn't worth dragging the presenter out for it. So my successful programs. Please keep in mind that we do have a very small programming room that can seat up to about 20 people comfortably. So this really is considered a success for us. I also added in the views and such for our Facebook Live video to show that while at times people are unable to make it to the program, they will still partake if they have the option to do it from home. So going into more detail, here's my process for book group. I purchase the books. I create a voting chart that has 3 books and their summaries. Attendees would then put a 5 for the book they wanted the most, a 3 for the one they were okay with, and 1 for the one they didn't want to read. This allows them to be more involved in the process, and they're more likely to show up because they aren't involved, and they pick the book that they want to read. I then print out bookmarks with the title of the book, as well as their next book group date and time written on it to help them remember when it is. I also hand out the books at book group. So if we meet for our November book group, I will make sure to have the books for December's book group. That way they have the time between November and December to read the book. Special needs. I do have a patron who's part of my book group since day one. He is blind. So I do make sure that the books I place on the voting chart also have an audio option that I can get for him. So you want to make sure that you can include as many people as possible in your program. Here are just some pictures from past programs. I try not to stick with a certain type of book. As I mentioned before, I do all types, adult, teen, juvenile. I've done poetry and baking cookbooks. I've done horror and biographies. I think it's important to change it up. And yes, I've had people complain that it's not a book that they would normally read, but I do like to remind them that that's the point of book group. It's to try something different. And if they don't like it, they have more to talk about at the discussion. For example, for our baking cookbook month, everyone got a book and they picked the dessert from the book, replicated it, and brought it in for everyone to try at book group. So that was a very tasty one. For our poetry one, we did I Wrote This For You by Ian Thomas. We ended up taking a picture and sending it to the author, and he sent us a really nice letter in response, and people were very happy to see that an author actually responded to something we sent them. We've also had such heated debates at times that we would tweet authors during book discussion. They might not always reply, but it's exciting to be able to say, oh, well, we can get in touch with this author. Let's see what they actually think about this. So another program is cupcake decorating. This was one of my favorite programs. I have both instructed it myself and had someone else do it. I have both supplied cupcakes and I have told people to bring their own cupcakes and I would supply the topping. It depends on how much you're willing to spend on the program. Another idea that you might be able to use is to make the cupcakes and people can purchase them to decorate at the program and then take home. But I do suggest that you supply the materials because the instructor has in mind what they want the cupcake to look like. So that's just an idea. Here are some examples of cupcakes we've made. We've done The Nightmare Before Christmas. This was for a Halloween extreme event that I've done where we watched The Nightmare Before Christmas. I brought in the cupcakes and then people decorated them with frosting. The blue one on the bottom right-hand side, those were for the summer. So we just did kind of like a summer theme. You had rainbows and a bear lying on a beach, fishing, and Cookie Monster. The Minion ones, I actually brought in an instructor for that one. I did give her a gift card for a local shop. I had people decorate 2 cupcakes. As you can see, they got very creative with them. And then the rest of the cupcakes, I used the next day for a bake sale. So it was part fundraising, part come learn something new and have fun. Movie nights. So when I do movie nights, I focus on movies that were recently released that people had mentioned that they wanted to see but never got a chance to. We've also watched movies based on books that we've read at book group, such as Carrie, Gone Girl, The Count of Monte Cristo. As you can see, the 3 are completely different from each other. But again, it's important that you introduce them to something different. People really enjoy talking about how the book and the movie differed. So there's always something to talk about when you do a program. Home organizing. This program came through fruition after we had discussed The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo during one of my book groups. People had expressed an interest in what it would be to actually have someone to talk to them about it. So I went on Google, found a professional organization, which turned out to be the National Association of Professional Organizers. It was the Greater Philadelphia chapter. I reached out to multiple professionals to see who would be willing to work with me on the budget, as well as be okay with not advertising while they did the program at the library. I had 19 people show up for this. It was great. And once again, it came as an idea from a book group that we had. Pumpkin carving. I actually had this program a couple of weeks ago. I had done it once back in 2012. It was great at the time, and it was great again. It was a success. I supplied the pumpkins for free and asked people to bring their own carving supplies. 1, I did not want them getting hurt with the knife or blade I brought in. And 2, I was not going to spend money to make sure everyone had something to carve with. So if they brought in a kitchen knife, they could carve a pumpkin. Also, when I advertised my program, I did not include anything Halloween related, just that we were carving pumpkins and that they should too. The reason I did this is because I know that there are who don't celebrate Halloween and would therefore not sign up if they felt that this was a Halloween program. I advertised it as just another art craft, and I wanted people to see that. I had 13 people show up. As you can see, I had printed out stencils to give them ideas of what they could carve into their pumpkins. You can see someone used the owl, another person used a ghost, someone used a Jack Skellington face. People really enjoyed themselves. I put newspapers all over the table and the floor to soak up whatever pumpkin juice or pumpkin bits had fallen. And it made cleaning up so much faster. I had 13 people show up, I believe I mentioned that, and they just had a blast. Everybody brought their own carving supplies. Nobody got hurt, thank God. It was just a really fun program. Multicultural food night. So these I normally do in November because of Thanksgiving, but again, I don't say it's because of Thanksgiving. I try not to relate the holiday to the program in any way, but people are more in the cooking and baking mood for the holidays, so what's another meal to add on? They are required to a dish to attend the event, as well as a list of written ingredients in case anyone has allergies. For the people who can't cook, they will normally approach me themselves and will say, hey, I can't cook, but I really would like to attend this program. Is there anything that we can do? And I will work with them. I will either tell them to bring in drinks or their favorite store brought dessert. I want as many people as possible to participate, but I also want them to feel invested and not just, oh, here's an event with food, let's go. No, bring the food, let's all sit together and enjoy a meal. Here's one of my past food nights and some of the dishes. We had Irish potatoes made by an Irish, baklava made by an Israeli, stuffed cabbage and grape leaves made by an Egyptian, potato pancakes made by a Filipino. There were other dishes, but I couldn't fit them all in here. And as you can see, there's a group of them standing there. It was wonderful just learning about people's countries, the foods they ate, when they made them, particularly for holidays, and just learning about one another, which was the whole point of Multicultural Food Night. Of course, the food was a major point as well, but it's to learn about each other. My failed programs. I already explained my writing workshop and my gingerbread house, but I thought it was also important to show that while a book group could have been considered very successful, it can also be a failed program. But this is one program that I will not cancel, even if only one person shows up. Because of course it's books, it relates to libraries, it's part of our mission. That being said, it's important to remind yourself that you are not first priority. Work, school, and home obligations will beat you every time. So say having a 700-page book group to be discussed in December may not be the best idea since people have exams or family trips or shopping, holidays. They have so many other obligations. They will not have time to read a 700-page book. Therefore, they will not show up. Keep that stuff in mind. Do not be afraid to ask them how busy their schedules are and what they would like to see from you. They will tell you. You might actually be surprised just how much they will tell you. But sometimes it is good to know. Ideas and inspiration. Where do I get my ideas? To be honest, all over the place. It's a little easier for me in the sense that I am a millennial. I'm constantly hearing about the trends that are happening. I read about them on Facebook. I see them fill up my Instagram feed. And I take those ideas and I ask my attendees, especially my book group members, since they are my most consistent ones. I post polls on my Facebook group. I do verbal polls during book group and other programs. I am constantly asking for suggestions. I want to make sure that the programs I am offering are not just things that I would find interesting, but things they would find interesting. It's so easy to come up with a program that you yourself are interested in. But it's good to remember that just because you like something does not mean they will. Most importantly, you need to listen. The one thing I have found to be true at all of my programs that don't involve silence is talking. They love to talk about what they have done, what they're doing, what they're going to do. They talk about what they love and what they hate, what they've read, what they've watched, which events they've attended, what they want to attend. So listen, listen, listen. Hiding in their talk is the idea for your next program, especially because a lot of the time they don't think that this is something that would be interesting enough to be turned into a program. So yes, you've asked them, but they won't mention it. For example, at every single one of my book groups, every single one, without fail, Harry Potter is mentioned. So I recently suggested a Harry Potter fun night sometime in February. It would have trivia, themed food, costumes, and other things. The response I got from them was overwhelming, and they were already talking about it. As soon as I mentioned it, they were talking about it as if it was already a go. So of course now it's a go. I hadn't even created flyers yet. The one thing that did happen is that I ended up creating a poll on Facebook, and my 1.5-hour fun night that was supposed to happen on a Thursday is now turning into a 5-hour Saturday afternoon program, and they are so excited for it. So listen to them. Give them what they want as long as it's within your means and your library's mission. Social media. Now that I've mentioned Facebook a lot, this is me segueing into social media. I had recently attended a very informative social media workshop. It's one of the most informative ones I've ever been to, and I've been to quite a few. This was done by Kate Kopp, who is head of social media at the Free Library of Philadelphia. She herself is particularly fond of Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I myself am most fond of Facebook groups, which I will talk about in a couple of slides. And I'm just starting to get into Instagram. So she's mentioned that Instagram is mostly for younger audiences, 18 to 35. You're just posting something visually for them to look at. Facebook is from 18 to 65, and you're building a sense of community, and you're igniting conversation around what's happening at your library. So Facebook, according to Kate, she believes that if you use a photo, video, and or link in every post, people are more likely to respond to you, either by liking or by commenting. If you just post a couple of words and hit publish, Facebook itself, its algorithm, will not push that post. So only very few people will see it. She wants you to lean into current trends, something like putting the word orange in a book. I am currently reading A Dance with Dragons, so I would say A Dance with Oranges, and have people tell you what books they're reading by changing a word in the title. Make sure you're posting high quality photos. None of that blurry stuff. iPhones, Androids, they all work. Just make sure it's a good quality. You don't need a high-tech camera for that. The best time of day to reach your audience is between 1 and 3 p.m. This is also from the Facebook algorithm, but she herself has seen it when she posts around that time. She suggests questions or fill in the blanks because it gives people the opportunity to respond to you, and they want to respond to you. She also suggested paid advertising if it's within your budget. So it depends on whether you have a Facebook page that you share with other libraries in your community. She would suggest boosting events. If it's just one library and in one community, rather than a multi-library system, she would suggest boosting a post. She said videos do very well. If you've ever opened up a Facebook video and then watched the second one that came up and then the third one, and next thing you know, an hour has passed by, you know that videos do work very well. There's Facebook Live, which is shown to much of your following. A lot of times they will get a notification that you have gone live, and they will tune in, even if it's for a couple of seconds. Instagram. Again, make sure your photo is clear. People don't want to have to squint at their phones to make out what you posted. And your caption should not detract from the picture. In essence, one line is enough. Forget paragraphs. Paragraphs are for Facebook. If you've been on Instagram, you know that the most common thing to do is scroll and double tap and keep scrolling. Rarely do you sit there and read a paragraph on Instagram. Just don't do it. Facebook groups are my personal favorite. I had originally started out with a Facebook page, and it just wasn't working out for me. It took up too much time for too little results. So I switched over. One of the things I love is that when I post something, members get a notification. I, however, do not abuse that privilege and post once, sometimes twice a day max, and sometimes only once or twice a week. I personally do that so I don't bombard them with notifications, because if you do, they will turn those notifications off. This way, they're only being notified when it's important, whether it's a reminder of a program coming up or, hey, sign up, I have a new program in the works, things like that. So far, no one has complained. I also prefer to post pictures of events in our group, and these pictures will include people's faces, and they will usually find one or two that they want to keep. The group is private, so no one but people within the group can see it. However, if I am posting to the Facebook page, I only post the backs of heads. If people want their face splattered across the internet, they can do it themselves. Another thing I love is being able to schedule posts. I tend to forget to post reminders for programs, so having that option is so beneficial for me. This is not limited to the group, but can also be done from a Facebook page. For example, if you're out for the day before a program, but need to write a reminder, do it ahead of time. It's the best thing in the world. So Facebook group examples. So in the next couple of slides, I have some of these for you. I am sharing different ways I have connected with my group members. Here was a recent bake sale we had. 2 members had actually baked some goods, as well as helped man the table for a couple of hours. And I wanted to thank them for their help, as well as let other members know that it was a success. Here's an example of polls. Remember how I love scheduled posts? I love polls just as equally. I use them for almost everything. I want them invested. I know I've mentioned this a lot, but it is very important. They need to participate in the decision making. It helps them feel that you are really looking to do what they want. They're more likely to show up because they feel like you've done a particular program or set a particular time with them in mind. In this case, it was for a calligraphy event and a Harry Potter night. It was because of this poll that my Harry Potter night moved from a 1.5 hour on Thursday night to a 5-hour program on a Saturday afternoon. Would I had scheduled a Saturday afternoon without asking them? Absolutely not. Because I've done it before and I barely got signups. Thursday is their night, so before I change it, I get their input. I have offered to do programs on other nights, and they always ask to do it on a Thursday. Because to them, Thursday has now become library night. Also, having this poll 4 months ahead of time allows them to pencil it into their calendar, and it's something for them to look forward to. Here is an example of a video post that I had done. This was before my pumpkin carving program. I had happened across a video on Facebook that combined both pumpkin decorating and Harry Potter. So I shared it as a reminder that the program was coming up, as well as to give them ideas that they might want to use themselves at the program. This is a picture post. We were reading It by Stephen King. I shared what page I was currently on, and then I asked them a question. My question was, did you start yet? And I got a couple of responses, which was great. Of course, most of them were, it's too scary and I'm having nightmares. That's not great, but the fact that they responded was great. Talk to them, but make sure you are ready to listen because they love to talk back. And I mean that in a good way. A Facebook Live example here. This was actually my very first live video I had done, and I ran it for the length of the program, except for the part where people got up to take plants with them. As you can see, we also have some people join us from home, a couple of likes, but a ton of views. We had, I believe that day, 235 views. Facebook Live is something I hope to tap into as I bring in more outside presenters. If you decide to go the route of a Facebook group, link it to your library's Facebook page. This is actually something I just recently figured out. If you'd like help with linking it, feel free to email me. One of the main benefits of having this link is that when community members visit your page, they will see that there is a group targeting their age group and they might join. It's good to have that option out there. And for success, there are 4 key points that I would like to share with you. If you learn nothing from my presentation, which I truly hope is not the case, keep these 4 points in mind. For a successful program, you need one of the following: a program that will benefit them educationally, for example, my financial literacy program; a program that will teach them a new skill, for example, cupcake decorating; a program that relates to arts and crafts that lets them use their hands and get creative, for example, pumpkin carving; or, for example, a program that involves giving them something for free, because who doesn't love free? Another example is the book for book group. They get to keep that, it's free, they love it. If you have 2 or more of the 4 points, I say it will be amazingly successful. My cupcake decorating involved learning a new skill, as well as arts and crafts, meaning they work with their hands. They got free supplies to do the cupcakes. One of my more successful programs. My gardening program, it benefited them educationally, but they also got to take home plants for free. They walked out of the program with a smile on their face. You decide what you want and what you can do within your means. So what do I have coming up? I have a program on taxes in January, which will benefit them educationally. I have a program on calligraphy, which will teach them a new skill, as well as relates to arts and crafts. Gardening programs, which will benefit them educationally, as well as they get to take home free plants. A galaxy art jar, which relates to arts and crafts, but also allows to take home something for free. Yoga can be argued to be educational, a new skill, relates to arts and crafts, and is free. And Harry Potter, that's just life. So this takes us to the end. You are more than welcome to ask any questions you may have. I have also added my email in case you think of something later. My blog, which I do post programming stuff on, but also involves the rest of my library work, including conferences and experiences. The Facebook group for Millennial Program is actually a group I started on Facebook to share programming ideas. I created it with an intention that people share what they are doing, but it does usually come down to me posting stuff. And finally, my own library group that I have in case you want more examples of posts that I've made. So if anybody has any questions, if not, I'll pass it back to Julia.
Thanks so much for that, Sarah, sorry. That was amazing. I actually got a little bit jealous of your job and I want to go back to my old role when I was working in the library, because I thought some of those ideas were really, really cool.
Thank you.
And I had written down a question to ask you how you got the ideas, but then you answered that later on when you said that you just asked them to come up with things. And obviously Harry Potter, that's genius. Yeah. Everyone loves Harry Potter. Yeah,
it doesn't matter how many programs you do on it, they will come to it and they will be excited for it.
Yeah, so that's very cool. So did you say you had a survey that you wanted to send out to people?
I did. If people can just take this, I would. Sorry. This is my first webinar that I've done, so I would like some feedback if anybody's willing to give it. It is anonymous, so do not feel pressured into answering a certain way. Where would I post? Oh, chat. There we go. Do I post it in the chat?
Yep, you can put it in the chat. Perfect.
Okay.
And I will also link to it on our website when I post the recording, if you like.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
No problem.
Okay,
Thanks again.
Thank you so much, and thank you for anyone who showed up.